Coming up on 5 Minute News. Buffalo gunman gets life in prison for shooting rampage. Mike Pence to fight subpoena all the way to the Supreme Court. And World Bank boss quits due to climate change denial. It's Thursday, February 16. I'm Anthony Davis. A white supremacist who murdered 10 black people at a Buffalo supermarket was sentenced to life in prison without parole yesterday after relatives of his victims confronted him with pain and rage caused by his racist attack. Anger briefly turned physical at Peyton Gendron's sentencing when a victim's family member rushed at him from the audience. The man was quickly restrained. Prosecutors later said he wouldn't be charged. The proceeding then resumed with an emotional outpouring from people who lost loved ones or were themselves wounded in the attack. Gendron, whose hatred was fueled by racist conspiracy theories he encountered online, including the Great Replacement theory, championed by Fox News. Gendron's victims at the Tops Friendly Market, the only supermarket and a neighborhood hub on Buffalo's largely black east side, included a church deacon, the grocery store's guard, a man shopping for a birthday cake, a grandmother of 9, and the mother of a former Buffalo fire commissioner. The victims ranged in age from 32 to 86. Gendron pleaded guilty in November to crimes including murder and domestic terrorism motivated by hate, a charge that carried an automatic life sentence. 19-year-old Gendron is due in federal court today for a status update in a separate case that could carry a death sentence if prosecutors seek it. His attorney said in December that Gendron is prepared to plead guilty in federal court to avoid execution. New York State does not have the death penalty. The gunman wore bullet-resistant armor and a helmet equipped with a live-streaming camera as he carried out the May 14 attack with a semi-automatic rifle he purchased legally but then modified so he could load it with illegal high-capacity ammunition magazines. The former Vice President Mike Pence said on Wednesday he will challenge a subpoena by the special counsel overseeing investigations into efforts by the disgraced former President Donald Trump and his allies to overturn the results of the 2020 election, and will go all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. Let me be clear, I'm going to fight the Biden DOJ subpoena to appear before the grand jury because I think it's unprecedented and it's unconstitutional, Pence told reporters in Minneapolis. The fact that no vice president has ever been subject to a subpoena to testify about the president with whom they served makes it unprecedented. The Justice Department is expected to oppose his efforts. Aides argue that because Pence was serving in his role as President of the Senate on January 6, 2021 during the congressional certification of the 2020 election that Trump lost, he is protected under the Constitution's speech or debate clause from being forced to testify. That provision is intended to protect members of Congress from questioning about official legislative acts. Pence noted that he has written and spoken extensively about Donald Trump's efforts to pressure him to overturn the results of the election, something he did not have the power to do. He added that he expects Trump to try to assert executive privilege to block his testimony. "That's not my fight. My fight is on the separation of powers," Pence said. Attorney General Merrick Garland appointed Jack Smith in November to lead the Justice Department's inquiries into Donald Trump's role in the insurrection, as well as his handling of classified documents after he left office. The subpoena of Mike Pence was related specifically to the January 6 investigation. World Bank President David Malpass on Wednesday said he would leave his post by the end of June, months after running afoul of the White House for failing to say whether he accepts the scientific consensus on global warming. Malpass, appointed by former President Trump, will vacate the helm of the Multilateral Development Bank, which provides billions of dollars a year in funding for developing economies, with less than a year remaining in a 5-year term. He offered no specific reason for the move, saying in a statement, "After a good deal of thought, I've decided to pursue new challenges." By long-standing tradition, the US government selects the head of the World Bank, while European leaders choose the leader of its larger partner, the International Monetary Fund. Malpass took up the World Bank helm in April 2019 after serving as the top official for international affairs at the US Treasury in the Trump administration. Formerly, he was the chief economist for defunct investment bank Bear Stearns for more than a decade. Bear Stearns was a global investment bank located in New York City that collapsed during the 2008 financial crisis. The bank was heavily exposed to mortgage-backed securities that turned into toxic assets when the underlying loans began to default. World Bank sources say they were surprised by his decision to step down before the joint meetings of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund in Morocco in October. Pressure on Malpass was reignited last September when the World Bank chief fumbled answering a question about whether he believed in the scientific consensus around climate change, which drew condemnation from the White House. You can subscribe to 5-Minute News on YouTube with your preferred podcast app. Ask your smart speaker or enable 5-Minute News as your Amazon Alexa flash briefing skill. Subscribe, rate, and review online at 5minute.news. 5-Minute News is an Evergreen podcast covering politics, inequality, health, and climate, delivering independent, unbiased, and essential world news daily.